So in 2024, most people have cell phones, iPhones, whatever it's being used to communicate. It's a camera, it's a place of work almost. But this movie, such a throwback, 22 years ago seems a million years ago because the plot of this is about a guy who's using a traditional phone booth to do business, gets caught by a malevolent sniper, and has to literally beg his way out. Now, Colin Ferrell in 2002 and around that era had a lot of number one hits, and this was one of them. Joel Schumacher directed it. The psychological thriller is produced by David Zucker and Jill Netter, written by Larry Cohen and starring Ferrell, Forrest Whitaker in a very underrated performance, a young Katie Holmes, Rada Mitchell, and Kiefer Sutherland as the voice of the sniper. Now, this movie was in development stages for decades. I heard about this being a possibility during the Hitchcock era, but it never came about. In this one, a malevolent hidden sniper calls a phone booth, and when a young publisher inside answers the phone, he quickly finds his life at risk. The film, which pretty well is in real time, received generally positive reviews, but not many nominations, and was a box office hit, grossing $97 million worldwide against a production budget of only $13 million. Now, produced by Fox 2000 Pictures and Zucker Netter Productions, the film premiered at the 2002 Toronto Film Festival to great acclaim and was set to be theatrical release in November 2002, but the BC sniper attacks in October 2002 prompted 20th Century Fox to delay the release of the film. It was then finally released theatrically in the States on April 4, 2003, despite it's still considered a 2002 movie. Now, in this one, Stuart Shepard, played by Farrell, is an asshole. He's an arrogant and dishonest New York City publicist who is being having an affair with Pamela McFadden, played by Holmes, behind the back of his wife, Kelly. While in Times Square, surrounded by prostitutes, crackpots, psychos, and other derelicts, and maybe a few Trump supporters, Stewart uses a public phone booth to contact Pamela, allowing him to avoid detection by Kelly. During the call, he's interrupted by a pizza delivery man who attempts to deliver free pizza to him, but Stewart aggressively turns him away. As soon as Stewart completes his call, the phone rings. Stewart answers. A man on the other end, who knows his name, warns him not to leave the booth, threatening to tell Kelly about Pam. The caller then tells Stewart that he's tested two previous individuals who have done wrong deeds in a similar manner, giving each a chance to reveal the truth to those who wronged them, but in both cases they refused and were killed. Stewart must confess his feelings about Kelly and Pam to avoid the same fate. To demonstrate the threat, the caller fires a suppressed sniper rifle with pinpoint accuracy. The caller then contacts Pam and connects her to Stewart, who admits that he is married. The booth is approached by three prostitutes demanding to use the phone, but Stewart refuses to leave without revealing his dilemma. Leon, a pimp, eventually breaks the glass side of the booth to back up his charges, grabs Stewart and pummels him while the prostitutes cheer. The caller offers to make him stop, and in Stewart's confusion, he inadvertently asks for this. The caller shoots Leon dead, a very effective scene, by the way. The prostitutes immediately blame Stewart, accusing him of having a gun, as the police and news crews converge on a location. Now, the prostitutes are used for dark comedy, but from this point, it's like I said, well put together. It's well structured, sort of like how Hitchcock used to work his movies like plays. Now, Forrest Whitaker plays NYPD Captain Ed Ramey, who decides to seal off the area and negotiates to make Stewart leave the booth, but he refuses. Stewart tells the caller there's no way they can incriminate him, but the caller draws his attention to a handgun planted in the roof of the phone booth. And this is after a back and forth where basically the caller is trying to make Farrell get Forrest Whitaker off his game, saying, you're having trouble with your wife, you can't get her up, you jerk off, all that stuff. It's, like I said, very effective. As Kelly and Pam both arrive in the scene, the caller demands that Stewart tell Kelly the truth, which he does. The caller then orders Stewart to choose between Kelly and Pam, and a woman who does not choose will be shot. Now, Stewart secretly uses his cell phone to call Kelly, allowing her to overhear his conversation with the caller. She quietly informs Ramey of this. Meanwhile, Stewart continues to confess to everyone that his whole life is a lie to make himself look better than he really is. Stewart's confession provides sufficient distraction to allow the police to trace the payphone call to the nearby building. Stewart warns the caller that the police are on the way, and the caller replies that if he's caught, he will kill Kelly. Desperate, Stewart grabs the handgun and leaves the booth, begging for the sniper to kill him instead. The police fire upon Stewart, while a SWAT team breaks into the room that the caller was tracked to, only to find a rifle in a man's corpse. When Stewart regains consciousness, the police have fired only rubber bullets, stunning but not harming him. Stewart and Kelly happily reconcile. As the police bring down the body, Stewart identifies it as the pizza delivery man from earlier. Stewart gets medical treatment at a local ambulance. After getting a shot from a paramedic, he starts losing consciousness. The real caller passes by, warning Stewart that if his newfound honesty does not last, he will return, before disappearing in the crowd while the payphone rings again. Kiefer Sutherland is the voice of the shooter, by the way, probably some of his best work. But Kiefer got that narration style like the father. And the cinematography by Matthew Libatique, which I have always hard time pronouncing, was quite effective. And Mark Stevens' editing is done quite good because it harkens back to the Jewison style or the Woodstock style of the late 60s. And the music by Harry Gregson Williams, again, quite effective. Now, this was one of the most anticipating, shelf releases of the early 2000s, because a lot of people literally were asking for this movie as early as December, but in tribute to the recovery from the shooter. Now, again, Colin Ferrell plays the lead character. Kiefer Sutherland is the caller. Forrest Whitaker, Katie Holmes, Radha Mitchell as Kelly Shepard Stu's wife, and the Jared Leto actually played a character as Bobby in the deleted scene. Now, in 1960s, Larry Cohen had pitched Alfred Hitchcock an idea for a film which took place in real time, entirely within the confines of a telephone booth. Hitchcock liked the idea, but the project did not move forward because the two men were unable to devise a plot which explained why the action had to be restricted to be to one location. Now, it's set up here, this is the last, phone booth on Times Square, and this was the transition because everybody was going to flip and later cell phones. Cohen recalled that Hitchcock would ask him if he had a solution to the problem when they periodically met over the following years, but it was not until the late 90s, some 2 decades after Hitchcock's death, when he came up with the answer of a sniper forcing the protagonist to remain within the phone booth, and he was able to write a script. Now, CAA signed a contract with Cohen, and the script appealed to several A-list actors, such as Tom Cruise, Will Smith, Mel Gibson, Robin Williams, Anthony Hopkins, and Nicolas Cage. Directors placed in consideration, including Gibson, Steven Spielberg, the Hughes brothers, and Michael Bay. According to Cohen, Bay was removed from consideration after the first question he asked about the script. Okay, how do we get this thing out of the damn telephone booth? Eventually, Schumacher, who had been considered early in development, was brought back on to direct the film. Jim Carrey was originally cast as Stu Shepard, but he dropped out. We really don't know why. Schumacher said, "We were going to shoot it that summer, and he was fitted for the suit, but I got a call from Jim one night, and he told me he had cold feet. He didn't really feel comfortable with it. Actors never give up at their role. If an actor gives up a part, then it's not right for them." Now, Jim Carrey wouldn't have worked here because Colin Farrell is a little bit smarmy in real life, and he's very sexual. Like, to make it work, you can pretty well have to see Colin Farrell trying to fuck 2 women at the same time that you don't meet each other. That was something my Uncle Bud would try with a half visually impaired person, but that's another story altogether. That'll be another podcast. But it was my Uncle Bud's favorite movie because he could relate to a man trying to screw over 2 women at the same time. Now, principal photography on the film was completed in 10 days, with additional 2 days of establishing shots, pickups, and reshoots. The accelerated filming schedule was aided by the adoption of French hours, a work schedule that skips the typical 1-hour production shutdown for lunch, break, in exchange for making food available all throughout the shooting day. The filming was done with Ron Eldard cast in the roles of the caller. During filming, Eldard delivered his performance from the window of a building across the street from the phone booth Farrell was in. The role was recast with Kiefer Sutherland after screenwriter Cohen told director Schumacher that Eldard's voice lacked the mesmerizing tone that Cohen wanted. Sutherland re-recorded all of the caller's lines for use in the final film. And you can tell it's an audio dub, but that doesn't take away. There was costume designers Daniel Orlandi's second feature with Schumacher, having previously worked together on Flawless. According to him, Dolce & Gabbana created the suit and shirt worn by Colin Farrell. Though the fashion house was tasked with making additional suit copies for filming, they unfortunately would not arrive until the last day of shooting. Thankfully, the film was shot chronologically, and thus the costume could sustain damage without slowing down production. Orlandi was able to keep one of the suit copies for himself, as he and Ferrell were the same size. Now again, the film is set as real time, so the time span in which the film takes place is as long as it takes to watch it, much like the television series 24, which also stars Kiefer Sutherland. Like 24, it also uses split screens. Now, there is some moments where it's not in real time, but I think the last 60 minutes pretty well is there. Now, although the film is set in New York City, it was filmed in front of what is now the CB1 Gallery in downtown LA in November 2000. This is made evident by the LAC MTA buses periodically driving by. The exact location of the phone booth in the film is the corner of West 5th Street and Frank Court, given away by the Black Gate in the background. Now, when it premiered at TIFF in 2002 to great critical acclaim, it was originally again due to release in the States on November 15th, but the Belgrade sniper attacks delayed it. So filmed in 2000, released in 2003, and a very quick on VHS and DVD. One of the last VHS releases of the modern era, by the way, and I guess that copy is quite valuable. Came out in July 2003. Now, $46 million in the States, $51.3 million internationally, from again the production budget of $13 million. Now, on Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 72% based on 188 reviews, with an average rating of 6.5. The website's critical consensus reads, quick pacing and Ferrell's performance help make Phone Booth a tense nail-biter. At Metacritic, the film has a weighted average score of 56 out of 100 based on 35 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. Now, from Cinema Score, the public gave it a C+. I really think that people didn't get the movie, but people over the age of 45. I wasn't 45 at the time, but this was a tremendous Hitchcockian-style presentation. Now, Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars, and said of Sutherland's performance, if the voice doesn't work, neither does the movie. It does. Now, Tom McCarthy of Variety magazine criticized the film for not having enough material even for its relatively short length, and wrote, gussied up with a host of filmmaking tricks in an attempt to keep things lively. This intentionally acted a little exercise just doesn't have enough going for it, with the exception of the gradually growing interest in lead Colin Ferrell. I tend to agree. Forrest Whitaker is quite strong in this, and especially if I want to see more of the white SWAT guy or the white person who's basically trying to overtake Whitaker's scene, as we say, it's quite effective. I would love to see like a Kevin Spacey play the Forrest Whitaker character, but he was busy with other things at the time. Now, a stage adaptation of the film was performed July 7th to 22nd, 2009 at the Pulp Black Box Theater in Atlanta. Very interesting thing. Several movies have mimicked this over the years, but the Jeopardy Room is kind of maybe the prequel to this. The Martin Landau episode of Twilight Zone final season, where if he leaves the phone, it blows up. Now, and I guess there's a unauthorized Bollywood remake of it called Knockout in 2010, and Liberty Stands Still, starring Wesley Snipes and the great Linda Fortino, shares some of the plot and elements. So I watched this, I think it was like what they call the X-Men decade. I think X-Men 2 had come out around that time as well. It's a very, very effective movie. I love Colin Farrell because, if you like Mel Gibson, you're going to like Colin Farrell. And my only regret with this movie, I would have recasted somebody stronger because Katie Holmes was strong in this, but maybe getting like not a Heather Locklear, but what's her name there from Married with Children, you know what I'm talking about. She would have been great on this. But Katie Holmes only has like 3 or 4 key scenes. But you got to understand, by 2003 came along, she was getting more and more parts. So this was it's very rare in 2024 you see a movie be 2 years on the shelf or a year and a half in production, because it is a real-time movie, or within a certain extent. I give this 3.5 stars out of 4 because just for the prostitutes alone, that's a half a star, because they're not cliched, they act like real, really put upon prostitutes. And she's screaming, "You kill my baby daddy!" So that we're meeting with something up there. And this is not done for dark comedy. This is like real shit going down. Like, what would you have if you were an asshole caught in a phone booth and you couldn't get out and you had to get a bullhorn and tell the people you were an asshole? Would you take it because it ruins your career? But there was aspects of this in like in Seven, where she kills herself rather than put up with the degradation of her face. So there's a lot of aspects of Seven, and Colin Farrell's the closest thing you're going to get to Brad Pitt. And you got to understand, just the year previous there, American Outlaws, he was playing Jesse James, and this was the same time of Minority Report and SWAT and all that. So Colin Farrell was getting much box office love. And Colin Farrell in the early 2000s was a box office star. Now he's considered more of an art actor. It's funny, like ever since The Lobster, he's doing more art pieces, and good luck with The Penguin, by the way. The reason I'm doing that, The Penguin's coming up. It looks really, really good. I think it would be his first Emmy. So I think it's going to be great. So Colin Farrell, that performance, I give it 4 stars. And everybody else, anything with Forrest Whitaker in it and Colin Farrell, you got to watch it, because Forrest Whitaker, no matter what he's given, going back to The Crying Game and Fast Times and his work in the 80s and 90s, Forrest Whitaker is pound for pound one of the greatest actors of all time. He can take a rotten plot and make it outstanding, and a well-deserved Oscar. His Idi Amin movie a few years ago. Again, Forrest Whitaker, tremendous. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here as a break from the NHL playoffs, let us know what you feel. Give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And don't forget, as we say in Northern New Brunswick, if you're into Fool and Boat and Kiefer Sutherland is looking to kill you, just say, "I'm Canadian, don't shoot me." That was a joke back then. Have a good one.